Ziggity Zig coming at you with a Friday Faff, and this is actually a live game between the artificial intelligence of my computer. Now, it's the AI Elite, the blue Zerg down here in the bottom of Acheron Waste, and the red Elite Terran up here in the top left. So, honestly, I'm kind of curious as to see what's going to happen here, because I have no idea. I put them both on random race, random what's the other thing? Random race, random builds. So I don't know. I don't think they can cheese. I've tried setting them to cheese before because I was very excited to see that in Heart of the Swarm where they were gonna be doing that up. There's a okay. That's built on 10. That's cool. Really curious to see where the Zerg is going to go, starting out with some drones, so it's pretty much seriously hitting down on macro. I don't think it's going to go with any kind of a 14 hatch to try to do an early expand. It's probably just going to be a one base war, which could be interesting, could be not. We'll see and find out. Yeah, so anyway, in Heart of the Swarm, you can actually set the build when you're playing a custom game against the AI. And I have tried setting it for, early rush, 6 pool, that kind of thing, 4-gate pressure. The 4-gate pressure ended up being like this crazy late 12-minute immortal push, and that's not a 4-gate, so I'm not entirely sure so I just stopped even trying to set it to different builds. I just said, oh, you know what, just go random and I'll try to beat. So it does lots of different things, unlike Griff. Now, there is... Okay, here we go. So he's going to come down here, and there it is! It's a 15 hatch! There we go! So an early expand from the Zerg. I'm kind of impressed already. Here comes a quick little... I think that was maybe possibly a scout, just to find out if maybe, the Zerg was trying to... What the hell are you doing? It's trying to 4-gate or, cannon rush. I'm not entirely sure what you're up against there, but there's... Okay, so we're getting a little bit of gas just there. I don't think it's going to be enough gas just yet in order to get out a Reaper straight away. There's blue Zerg is now sending out a scout, but is also down here to make sure that... Oh, sending out 2 scout. Nope. Just going to continue on with this. So, searching the base just to find out if there's any shenaniganry going on here. This SCV is still doing the exact same thing. So, if you look at the income tab, it's actually fairly similar, except for the fact that the Zerg is not actually gaining any gas yet. This gas only just quickly going down. There goes the spawning pool. And the Terran does seem to be almost supply blocking, but it's probably just about to finish up this one. And the timing of this, there we go. We can keep making SCVs. Bam! Made right on time. Look at the timing there. So if you're watching, some impressive timing going on here. And there is the first Marine is out from the barracks. And the first Marine is going to take out this scouting drone. So what Blue saw is pretty much all that needed to be seen. But the only thing is that there is a factory. So going with the standard barracks into factory, probably into Medivac is when we're going to see... I'm not sure if we're going to see drops or just Medivac, Marine, Marauder play. We'll see probably quite... I'm hoping to see quite a bit of bio, but at this point, you never know. You could be going for a fairly heavy mech build. So, red just keeping track of the supply at the moment. This one lowly Marine is now taking care of trying to make sure that there's absolutely no shenanigans or cannon rushes going on from this Zerg player. And here comes another Zerg scout is going to come and peek out and see what's going on. Now, the thing is that red has no idea what's going on down here. And could really use a scout. So here comes a scout just to make sure that there's no weird stuff going on. And at the moment, no, there's no weird stuff going on, as there only is that one spawning pool. And so here we go. It's going to be SCV versus Zerglings, and that's not going to go well. There's no speed on the way from the Zerg player, but the Terran is now going to go for an expand at approximately 5 minutes, which is kind of early for a Terran, but when you know effectively what's going on, so with this scout, just seeing the Zerglings and seeing things like that, does have a pretty good idea what you're up against, aside from the fact that now there is, okay, I think that was just another Queen coming out, but there goes a Roach Warren is just starting up for the blue player, and the Roach Warren is certainly going to do, oh my god, we're like 500, 200 EPM right now. I'm not used to casting games as fast. This is the elites fighting each other, man. And so if you look at this, just the scouting and the map awareness going on here, blue is doing quite a lot of map awareness, just keeping track of things, trying to find out what's going on, checking out for the third, does not see a third from red, but if you look at red, is coming down here and does not even know if there is an early expand, couldn't even tell you if it was a 14 hatch, probably just going on the math of it seeing only that small number of units and knows that it's not going to be a big push, is ready for a sudden rush, but I don't think quite ready for a roach rush, but the army supply is remarkably similar at the moment. If you look at the income tab, they are pretty much on par with each other. Now, I'm not even going to bring up the EPM tab anymore because it is embarrassing. embarrassing. There's a tank. It's out pretty quickly, but here we go. We're going to go on to another... Oh, 2 factory, 2 barracks is going to be what's on par. And so what is happening here is, I think, yep, Zerg is able to see the SCV coming along, but the SCV was not able to look up the ramp, so therefore that one gets taken out. And once again, there was absolutely no scouting going on here from the red Terran, and so that's... I'm not even sure what to think about that. No starport just yet from Terran. Speed finally on the way for the Zerg player. The orbital command is going down, and it just seems to be more factories, more Marines, more tanks. So it's going to be Marine tank, maybe a slight move out, and that's going to be pretty decent, except up against the Roaches, I think, unless he gets a much larger number of Roaches, it's going to be pretty Terran heavy at the moment. You look at the army supply. The Zerg is actually ahead. Oh, sound disabled. I didn't mean to do that. Oh, give me that. Give me back. Give me it back. Give me back my sound. I liked that. And here is the SCV is still just scoping out. So, again, the scouting of your own base is doing quite well. But scouting of each other's bases is definitely not quite on the same sort of par. Here is the distance that the tanks can do, but without... You'd probably want a Marine maybe just down here at the bottom of the ramp, because then you'd have just that one more extra little, I'm going to say game inch, just to deal with there, because if you can't see where you can shoot, then there's no point. Now, the blue Zerg is still just doing a little bit of a scope out just to find out. They seem to be searching for proxies or really, really late game expos, so they're not actually making sure that they know where each other are, because the Terran knows that, yes, there's no third here. It's going to check for another third over there, so pretty much can just count and rely on the fact that there are only 2 bases in play at the moment. But if you look down over here, we'd have the Hydralisk Den, so it's going to be Roach Hydra probably coming out of the blue Zerg, and up here we're going to see an armory on the way down, so it could be Thors, it could just be upgrades for the tanks, I'm not sure. There's a couple of Hellions as well, just to even things out. There's 2 armories going down, so that implies to me that it is going to be all for the upgrades. There's a tech lab on the way, so it's going to be more tanks, Hellions while you're waiting, so Hellion tank and a small number of Marine. Still no starport at the moment, but if you have a look at the worker supply, it does look like the red Terran is in the lead. There's the blue Zerg still doing just a little bit of run around trying to find out if there's any third. So they've both scouted for third, but they haven't bothered scouting their naturals. So they kind of know what's going on, but at the same time they kind of don't. So they both know that each other is on 2 base. And as we all know, 2 base, if you have the same number of bases as your Zerg opponent, then you are sitting totally pretty. And here's the army supply. Does tell a different tale, but it's the strength and the diversity. But I'm worried about a Roach Hydra going up against tank Marine. I don't think that this is still being spotted down the hill. So it's pretty much a predominantly defensive tank maneuver here, but here comes the blue Zerg, and the blue Zerg is about to move out. They've got speed. I don't think there's many... I didn't see an evolution chamber, so there's going to be no upgrades right now for these units, aside from the speed. So once they go up against this, it's going to be, trying to make sure that we've got the Hellions near the front, the Marines near the front, and if we could push out just a little bit further, then we could get even more distance on this, and they're going to come up and check on the third. See nothing at the third, know that there's only still just 2 bases. This is still all they can see right now, but now the issue is they're going to come out through these rocks, and you can only just barely see that, but you can't, not quite within sight. There is an SCV that got picked off just a little bit by the Hydralisk, and at this point the red Terran is going to have to figure out that he's in a little bit of trouble just here, and they have to move the Hellions to try to block the ramp here, and that is going to do quite a bit of damage, because as they were blocking the ramp with the Hellions, the siege tanks were able to get in place, and they are now, there we go, just getting set up, and these siege tanks are doing quite a number on this bio army right now, and as you can see, the blue Zerg did get completely decimated, was trying to reinforce with with 1 or 2 Zerglings there, but here are just these remaining units, and that was just an absolute slaughter by the Terran army. Didn't really lose all that much at the time, but here comes... Oh, they're just taking care of these rocks down at the bottom. So then upon that, they have the ability to expand. The Zerg is going to try to expand at the same time, so now both armies moving into 3 base, but it does seem to be a pretty... It still is remaining even as that, once you have enough larvae and the cheap units, it would have been a much better idea for the Zerg, not an idea, but a much better plan or outcome if the Zerg was able to take out some of these tanks, because they're quite expensive units, and really, if you compare it to Hydralisk Roach, then there's not really all that much of a difference there. But another hatchery, there we go. So the expand is coming down at the same time. The infestation pit already went down, and so now the two armies are now just kind of peeking out and trying to see if they can spot a third. And there we go. The Zerg does spot the third approximately at the same time as this SCV is going to come down here, and he's going to spot the third. And they're both going to realize that, yes, they have both expanded to a third base, and there it is. Okay, so now actually this SCV can make his way up in here and try to see if he can spot any of the tech. Not bothering to go up here and spy. But finally, now we have the 2 Roach Warrens on their way down. There are a number of, now so we have Infantry 1 on its way, as well as some additional upgrades for the tanks and factory, and there is a starport making a number of medevacs at the moment. So now the army supply is still kind of in the Terran's favor, as they did do quite well in that first little round there, but just sort of moving the armies up, going on 3 bases, and here's the main army of the Zerg, and it's still looking kind of paltry at the moment. If you look at how much larva they've got right now, they actually have 18 just sort of laying in wait, but there's a number of different things. There's an Infernal Pre-Igniter for the Hellions and the Hellbats. Does that affect both units? I think it does, but correct me if I'm wrong. A number of defensive missile turrets up here just to make sure that we're not going that we're not in any trouble. I don't really know what this one's guarding against, but there's the other one over there, guarding against some Mutalisk play, but I'm not seeing any Mutalisk on the field just yet, getting to the 3rd base and the gas at both, because both of these players right now, with Roach Hydra not so much, but definitely with tech play and upgrades, the Terran player is going to be in great need of gas over the Zergs. And so if you look at this, worker supply is pretty much exactly even. Both of these players from the artificial intelligence from the internal networks of my computer here, and they are still just having a look now. What the two players are doing are they are just having a peek for the 4th base just to find out what's going on there. This one. There we go. This one Zergling did get attacked quite a bit, so just making sure that there's no other tech going on there. But still, not really aware of each other's tech just yet, aside from just seeing their units. So the Zerg knows about the tanks, and does not know about the 4th just yet, because that Zergling has run back to base just to make sure that there's nothing going on in theirs. And the Zerg also knows about Hellions and Marines, but does not know about the Marauders or these Medevacs. And so now we'll see what happens when the Terran moves out up against the Zerg, and trying to make one more expansion behind that, which is really going to be quite a big deal. And so at the same time, now choosing to move out while expanding is a lot easier to do than trying to make sure that you're defending while you're expanding at the same time. So moving in down there, and they do come around the corner of the 3rd base here, and so they do find themselves in a little bit of a pinch just here. They want to back up so that they are in range. See the range of these tanks, they're just going to take these out, but the problem is that you can't move back anymore because they got totally hit by the fungal growth from the infestors. However, that is going to be enough to scare the remainder of them away, and that is just a little bit of an advantage right now for the Terran unit. They are trying to reinforce now with Marines and Medivacs on their way down. These need to burrow, these Widow Mines need to burrow, but these tanks are just doing such a damaging job up against these units, and these Marauders are going to try to hit up the remainder of these Roaches, but these tanks are just doing such a job up against all of these bio units. This Medivac is just sort of hanging out here, just trying to wonder what he can heal. He just wants someone to pop out of the top corner of just open up the lid on the siege tank just so he can maybe fire his beam down the hole. I think I just said that out loud right now, but we're not going to worry too much about it. So these bio units are still just slowly melting their way into these tanks, and now just sort of deciding to, there we go. If you saw that, there was an unsieging just to deal with the one single bio unit, because the splash damage would have been detrimental, so just trying to avoid most of that kind of work. These tanks are just putting in 13 kills. The army supply is pretty heavy in the Terran's favor, but they are just swooping in kind of at the last minute. Probably is going to be able to take out this 3rd base. The 4th base is just getting up and running. The 5th base coming down now right here for the Red Terran, but the Terran is slowly moving its way down towards and just taking this out. These drones do not seem like they have much of a hope. There's a Widow Mine that's probably going to catch a few of them that are on their way out. The Broodlings do soften up these Marines just a little bit, but I think these tanks are definitely going to remove any of these drones from the picture, while also getting rid of any of these reinforcing Zerglings that are coming up the ramp. And I think the army supply is definitely now quite favorably in the Terran's favor. Here comes a few more units, and they are just trying to run around. The SCV is having a peek over here just to try to see if there's a 4th base in the way, and these units are on their way up. There comes a Raven just to back things up, I think. Probably put down a few point defense drones and or some auto turrets, because as we all know, energy is a lot more cost effective than life. And there is a infested Terran that's just going to pop in back there. But this base is definitely for no more. So a few Widow Mines just burying here in the back just to take care of things. These Medevacs are definitely putting in work. There's a few of these Marauders, and they're just getting up front and taking out this bio ball. And now the only thing here is that, you are kind of susceptible putting Widow Mines down in front of a Spore Crawler, except for the fact that the Spore Crawler can't hit you. So if there were any army left, and here comes just a few trickles of a Roach or 2 in, and it does look like there's not much left of the Zerg here, and I think the Terran has won this one handily. Not well, I wouldn't say it was a complete wipe, but after that first defense, the Terran did quite well. It was just a game of timing where when you have everything in the right spot when you need it to be there, then that will win the game for you, because all you need to do is eventually push out on your expand, getting now a 6th base up here in the corner, but only 2 bases left for this Zerg, and just trying to nickel and dime, trickle out a couple of roaches. I don't know where this guy thinks he's going, but he's definitely not going to last all that long. If you look at a few of these siege tank kills, they got 27 on that one, there's 4 on that one, there's 32 over there, 14, and 47 kills on this one hero tank, and now just sort of aligning themselves up along this ridge, which is an excellent spot if you're trying to pick off the drones and you're not worried about your own safety. But when your Zerg opponent pretty much has absolutely nothing left, here is a small army that is still just trying to hold out, and really, if you fungal enough just right here on this, then it will go quite well. But I think with this number of medivacs, the Terran will just be able to run around behind the corner of that, just taking out this last building, because in the event of a base race, you want to make sure that there are no buildings left, so just, or either that or popping off the extractor just for good measure. So, I'm going to take a quick sip of water, and there's the auto turret left behind to try to do a little bit of damage, but this small army is too big for the auto turret, and the auto turret gets overwhelmed. But unfortunately, right behind the auto turret is a number of big brothers, and all they're doing right now, they're just putting up more infantry, more weapons, more vehicle weapons, and the upgrades on these is just going absolutely crazy. The fungal growth not quite enough to take out any of these siege tanks with the huge numbers, and so here we go. The bio army makes it to the top of the range, into the main, and it looks like it has definitely been all over for quite some time. I am kind of curious to see what happens when, and it looks like the Zerg is going to GG out of there, and that's it. Choosing to go over to the score screen, so I guess I'm the one who has to end the game. Neither of these, I guess I'll just keep on playing until there's nothing left, and it'll automatically end when all of the Zerg buildings are gone. Average unspent resources pretty high for the Terran. No supply cap going on there. The APM showed an identical tail. Graphs of the army value, yeah, so that was the attack just there. And the Terran did an excellent job just trying to defend against that, and then was able to move out and go almost completely unchallenged in that. The upgrade spending probably did quite a bit as well, where I think where the Zerg fell behind was that they didn't get the evolution chambers out fast enough. Whew! Leave me a comment down below, send me an email, ziggityzig@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter @ziggityzig. If you've got a really awesome replay for me, send it over via email. If you don't, I'm just going to keep casting these, because you know what? That was a really, really good time. That was a Friday Faff casting a game between 2 elite AIs. Good old red versus blue. Stay tuned.